Voice of power, citizens. Since 1987, when that first album came out, I've been rocking with this man. Citizens, he's been steadfast and consistent. He does not bend. Citizens, his integrity is impeccable. Citizens, he is who he is and he says what he says. And he got a new project. Chuck D presents Enemy Radio, Radio Armageddon. I want to welcome my brother back to the show. Give it up for the legendary, the iconic one himself. He won't tell you that, but I can. Standing ovation for Chuck D.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
That voice came on. It sounded like somebody that had far less brain fog than I have today. Brain fog is real, yo.
Man, that was only last year, Chuck. Come on.
Far less brain fog than in 2025, yo. And have y'all seen all the stuff that's happened in the last year?
Oh my gosh, bro.
It's been
Oh
crazy.
my gosh.
I know, right?
It's been what out of all the things that's happened, what stunned you the most?
What?
Yeah,
what singular thing?
Yeah, what thing made you just hit you in the jaw the hardest?
45 becoming 47.
That's it, huh?
That's a big fact.
FAFO.
But yeah,
FAFO.
yeah, that's it.
F around, find out. I
Yeah.
mean, those that know don't tell, and those that tell don't know.
That was deep. I'm
Cryptic
gonna
a
let
little bit,
Chuck
yeah.
kind of sip that coffee he's sipping on before he explains what he meant by that. And how does that relate to 45?
No, thanks for having me come
Thank
on
you,
back.
man. Come on. Yeah, man.
I'm hanging around with, my man EP and the Def Jam people, and we had the project Radio Armageddon, and my partner in Spit Slam Records, C-Doc, he's the Brian Eno of rap.
Okay.
And a lot of people are like Brian Eno, and I've done rock tours. I've been incorporated with rock people, and some years ago, we were working with Def Jam, trying to figure out what to do with their archive departments, how to curate and caretake the music's better.
Mm-hmm.
You got to kind of like separate the music, because it seems that the audience that's out there are fragmented, in the classic, like what they do, what y'all, actually, hold up in high regard, and there's things in the middle, and there's new and current things. And Def Jam is a part of all of it with Universal. But these companies, which is down to three, Universal and also Warner Brothers and Sony, they got so much of everything. They don't know what to do.
They don't know what to do.
They need curators. They need caretakers. They need people that come out and be able to look at product and say, it's not just product. These are foundation cornerstones. And if you ask many artists across the board who have 15, 20-year careers, their stuff is scattered all over the place, and with no help in sight, and it's only but so much lawyers could help untwist it. Like if they had a sample that never get cleared, it might not ever be out. Now you got streaming out there.
Yeah.
So me and my team are probably looking to see how come we can't have hip-hop catalog in the same regard. And I ain't even saying Led Zeppelin, Beatles, Rolling Stone. I'm saying at least Styx, Frampton, REO Speedwagon, what's the Foreigner, Def Leppard. I mean, and they play heavy in this building.
Yeah.
And if you try to mess around with any of those masters or any of those companies, you probably you get the dirty done to you.
You get the dirty, but when it comes to hip hop and rap,
really when it comes to black music, period.
Black music and period.
Ask the funk bands of the 80s about their masters or where their music goes and stuff like that, and it's disarray. Anyway, how many, look, y'all did.
No, I like this conversation.
You've been doing interviews up here for years, right?
Yeah.
How many administrations have you talked to?
Presidential administrations?
Well, no. Let's keep it to the culture of music.
To the culture of music?
All right, let's say, how many black managements, can you give me a top 5 black management?
Quality QC, Rock
1,
Nation.
2.
Help me out, guys.
What does Steve Stout do? Is that management?
United Artists.
United Artists.
You're not United Masters, I mean.
Troy Carter doesn't Troy Carter have?
Troy Carter?
Troy Carter has a man.
Okay, 3.
How long they been around?
Flavor Unit.
See, that's somebody that's been around a long time.
Yeah, that's 4.
And my man Larry Jackson. He's had a deal with Apple now, doesn't he?
Yeah, it was Sexy Red, but Larry's a C. He shit. Larry's the man. I don't know if they got a title for Larry.
Yeah.
But
He's just there.
But the point is, we're
is
struggling
that
to name that man. Yeah.
You're struggling, yeah. And you don't really know the detail of these companies.
Yeah.
Are they management companies? Are they inner agencies? Are they sub companies underneath a layer of another company? What does it do compared to the world? Man, I was in a rock band 4 years, man.
Yeah.
There ain't no comparison.
You know the difference, right? You've seen it. Budgets, everything.
Night and day on two different planets.
Really.
Budgets, travel, venues. You know, in hip hop, we used to always say, well, no, listen, this is the motto on touring. Spectacle gets you in the building. Spectacular keeps you coming back for more. When a promoter is putting, one of those acts up in the building, they're already looking at it returning next year or 2 years later, already booked. When it comes down to black music and rap music, it's like we hope the building's gonna be okay.
Hope we got a dressing room.
Right. Spectacle gets you noticed, and you got bells and whistles for a day. Spectacular, you got it coming back for years.
Chuck D is here, man. 888-742-3345. Well, so you're working with Def Jam.
Well, I'm like Tom Hayden, consigliere. I like Tunji is over there.
Okay, salute to that brother. I want to see him win.
And when he came in, I wanted to see him win too. And we found a match to just go over there and do some work. It wasn't about releasing a project over there, but my catalog is there.
What are your thoughts on when you bring up the big three? You said Universal,
Sony.
Used to be 7 when I started.
Yeah, it was 7, right? And RCA, is it RCA?
No, Universal, Sony, and Warner Brothers.
How does this, when you look at this defamation lawsuit that's going on with Drake and Universal, what are your thoughts of that slope?
That slope is you ain't got enough lawyers to untangle it. So therefore, projects could be held up for about 2 to 3 years. And 1,000 days for a project. By the time you get it, it ends up being McDonald's codfish. You know what I'm saying? Like they caught it 4 years ago and they sell it as a fillet of fish 3 years later. I mean, after a while, it has diminishing returns on your health. So our nutrition and our cultural health is always on some process stuff 3 or 4 years down the line. First, it was like, let's clear the samples and get it out, or let's get to see if this is infringing musically upon something. And they didn't have enough lawyers to handle that. Now you got infringement on lyrics and defamation, which is a whole nother problem because it's like, it's now what is what? Now you got to go in every song and says it impeded on something else. Even years ago when I was caught in the Biggie lawsuit, people thought it was me. It was my songwriters.
From the 10 crack commandments being used.
My
1, 2, 3, 4,
my
5,
songwriters was like, Chuck, you better handle it. They up there bragging about their money. We want our money too. No, let it. I'm like, let it go. They say, all right, we're going to come after you for it. I'm like...
What do you mean by songwriters, though? Producers?
No. Producer. Listen, this is hip-hop twisted. I'm sorry, Heather. Hip-hop twisted terms that make no sense today. A producer is somebody who, by default, ends up putting the record together. They take the song of music and lyrics. You copyright music and lyrics.
Right.
That's 50% on the music side, 50% on the lyric side. That's what you call a song. But then somebody has to produce that song into a record. Now, it could be somebody, it doesn't mean somebody that made the music is the producer. It's just by default because it's their studio, they made the beats, rapper goes in there. They get production by default. But really, if you record the vocals somewhere else, somebody else produced the vocals.
Right.
But they never give the vocal producer any credit.
Right.
I mean, we do.
Yeah.
But so this thing, like whoever made the beats is the producer, that's a lazy evaluation, a lazy determination, for lack of a better word. So we got to get the terminology straight, because after you determine the terminology, you got to turn it into a lawyer anyway, who will make that determination on who is what and where and why they pay. So, getting all this clear. So I forgot your
No, because you said your songwriters, but you wrote the song.
You're talking about 10 crack commandments.
With the sample. Right.
I wrote the lyrics. I didn't write the music.
So that's what. Okay, the people who did got it.
Yeah,
okay.
You married to them.
I'm married. Who? Me?
A horse got
married,
money?
baby. You married, baby.
Yeah.
No, you married as a songwriter.
Oh,
yeah,
you're
you
married
married.
to-
Yeah.
okay.
I'm like, wait a second. What's
Yeah.
it? Okay.
Look,
Horse getting money? Horse getting
I'm like, is a check coming in my house? I don't know about Chuck. Don't start a fight.
You mean horse been getting money all these years?
Wait, Heather, you've made records,
No, I know that. I understand
and you
that.
married to the other songwriters.
No, absolutely.
Exactly.
I
And
understand
some of the
that.
songwriters you might not like.
100%, because I
But you
tell
married, though.
people all the time. So just take For All Glocks Down, for instance. There's 7 songwriters on that song.
Exactly.
Yes, I wrote the lyrics, but I sampled Linda Creed and Tom Bell.
Yep.
Then I sampled Buckshot.
Yep.
So I had to pay Linda Creed and Tom Bell. I had to pay Buckshot, and then whoever did the music for the stylistics. People make the world go round. So
By right, since you did the lyrics, that's 50% of the copyright, right?
absolutely.
But because it wasn't done in the beginning, then it ends up being a particle of whatever comes and say, "Nah, we ain't settling for that. We want this." And so that's what they call it. It ends up being in what legal jail before it's released or
So
whatever.
when we did it in the beginning, so it's my most popular song, I make the least amount of money from in terms of writing to Chuck's
Okay.
point. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
because it's a sample.
And you know what? Your other songwriters are there with you forever, for life.
Chuck D is here, man. It's an interesting conversation
Yeah.
here.
Well, I had to be different from the last one.
Well, yeah, it's different.
You know what?
It's different. We were celebrating Malcolm X today.
100
years today
years
would be the day.
Big up to the
Amazing.
royal family of the Shabazz family.
The Shabazz family. When did you discover Malcolm X, Chuck? Because your teachings and your music is of that lineage, of a Malcolm X. When did you discover Malcolm X, and how important was Malcolm X to our culture?
Well, I was born in this city, so
Yeah.
when I was 4, I remember hearing his name more. I was 5 years old when he was assassinated, so I remember hearing his name.
Yeah.
But I became cognizant of Dr. King when he got murdered in Memphis in 1968, but then I'm 7 or 8 years old.
Yeah.
So, I'm hearing Dr. King on the radio. So I'm hearing these people in real time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, it was like a no-brainer. It was not only Malcolm X, but it was a lot of, leaders, and you heard them on the radio. You saw them in TV. They wasn't like like fast forward, people, Dr. King statues, and even Malcolm X. They wasn't liked back then.
They weren't liked back then.
Nah, man, it's 1960s, man. I was born. Listen, I got Negro on my birth certificate.
Wow.
Negro, Negro. I remember by the time I was 6 to 7 years old, we were calling ourselves colored. By the end of the 60s, remember, my whole life spans the whole 60s, from 1960 to 1969. We were black and beautiful. Stokely Carmichael, later on Kwame Ture, he coined Black Power.
Yeah.
Or a whole bunch of folks that wanted that movement to be respected. You're going to respect us for that. Out of you had the Black Panther Party, started in the Bay Area with Huey Newton, Bobby Seale, Eldridge Cleaver. Angela Davis was a student at UCLA. A lot of movement in California, a lot of movement in New York City. And a lot of these names forced their way into the American scope by saying, we demand respect, and this is young energy.
Yeah.
So the young energy forced the musicians and the culture to respond to the movement. It wasn't the other way around.
Okay.
The movement, Kwame Ture, a.k.a. Stokely Carmichael, said we was on James Brown's ass every day. And then he comes up with
I'm
say,
black,
I'm
I'm
black, I'm
I'm
proud.
black and I'm
Yeah.
proud.
He said, we was on his ass like for 2 years. Like, what's up? And also in this city, because it's a melting pot and pressure, bust pipes. It's always compressed. Like last Friday, stay away from Madison Square Garden. Because of the Knicks, right?
Yeah.
So it's different, and so there's always been this quick, fast talking. Let's make this happen. Movements happen quick. Everybody comes in, convenes. It's a different energy. So, New York has always had this cultural push, but it's also had this socio-political push too, because people are pressed together. And that's why in 1989, a lot of people, might know Fight the Power.
Fight the Power,
But
of course.
as we go on, younger people don't connect it to the movie.
Yeah. They don't connect it to the X movie.
No,
The
they
Malcolm-
don't.
I mean, do the right thing. I'm sorry.
Do
Do
the
the
right
right
thing.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't connect it to the movie.
Because I mean, it wasn't in their cultural window.
Uh-huh.
The song permeated and went in a different direction because it represented a lot of things. I mean, I was in Serbia, man. And you had Serbians, and Croatians,
singing "Fight the Power"
in their own way, and they, it was a total. And you go to Africa, it's okay. And I tell people all the time, that's the second Fight the Power.
Right.
The first Fight the Power was the Isley Brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that came, and you know what? And that came in a period of dire stress in the United States because the United States was in a very shaky situation then. And black folks still, we still persevered. Because we like, now the country going down. And Nixon went down. Y'all got Joe Ford. He's, he goofy. And y'all don't even know who the next president is. But we still was able to speak out. And that's why, and speculated. But then again, you could just check the facts and put it all together yourself. In the mid-'70s, we might have been broke, but we wasn't broken.
Yeah.
So wherever we just wasn't connected, we were connected through TV shows and Soul Train, like Soul Train. But if you're in New York, you ain't getting to Cali like that. You don't even know what's going on in Chicago except for good times or whatever, or what's happening in California. So now you're getting cultural connections and then Jet and Ebony magazine. So you got these loose connections. So we had a voice that was starting to form together. Really, like in this city started to form together. No matter how broke we looked or how much we didn't have and what we had ourselves. So as soon as we started coming together in this city even, right, they don't take care of the city. The city's crumbling. We at the bottom of that, right, especially in the Bronx where it's down to ashes and all that. And as all these things are kind of forming together, then comes R&B, Reagan and Bush.
You know what?
And then comes COINTELPRO on the second level, cracking guns. See, back in the 70s, it was straight out. You could squab up, and got fighting skills, but you might be a friend, at the end of the day after a fight.
Yeah.
Once you throw in the game of drugs, first it was cocaine, it was bumped up to crack. They took weed off the streets, which people say ain't no drug or whatever, because I know unks that. Had their weed and had their beer, and they're good, right? And try to figure out how to handle their thing. But once they took that away and then cocaine came in, then it came in with the guns.
Yeah.
And then you had little heads making big money, and then you might have had an old head that might have went away for a year. He coming back on the streets, he ain't got no power. Because little head got money, he got guns, and at the same time, it's like, yo, old head. So that at the beginning of that, I remember clear as day the year. You talking 78, 79.
You can remember that. So you mentioned crack, you mentioned guns. Some would say hip-hop, the music business, record labels perpetuating the wrong messaging, really standing by.
That was the echo way later, because you had the 80s, and the first thing that hip-hop and rap did was speak loud against what was happening that wasn't even our fault.
Exactly.
It's like guns out of where? What? Well, all of a sudden you start, right, Pop? I got my brother, Pop.
Pop, what up, Pop?
Diesel over there.
What's up, Pop Diesel?
And,
Pop Diesel over there.
We in the same category, same age and all that, and we all of a sudden, because he's a martial artist and all that, fighting, and then the next year you find out that cats could get guns easy, like out of nowhere.
Yeah.
You talking 78, right? 78, 79.
70. So let's talk about that echo, though, because there's a lot of conversations about the record business being a part of a movement to the detriment of the black community by only pushing certain kind of messaging.
And once you come together and you're powerful, then here comes the next layer of the enemy.
Okay.
And that happened maybe in bits and pieces in the 90s.
You feel so? You agree with that?
Agree with what?
Like record companies being galvanized and only pushing mostly certain kind of messaging to our community.
Well, I take the exterior layer off and name individuals, and then they start running like cockroaches when you turn on the light.
Oh shit!
You can't say corporate. Whenever you say company and corporations, that's the same thing that lawyers use to protect the individuals. And I'm not saying you could blame an individual. All you gotta do is turn the light on them, and then we just want to watch your actions. Did you make that decision? With us, we come out as individuals. When I make a statement, I got to sign Chuck D next to it.
Yeah.
When somebody makes a statement out of nowhere, you be like, well, who made that statement? Oh, the corporation made it.
Okay.
But who in the corporation? The black community will always go further when you start to identify the individual. forget the company or corporation. So there was a lot of individuals that were complicit because in the name of business, they were like, we're going to do, and we would make excuses like, well, you know what, money talks. Say all kinds of stupid shit that don't apply to us. Well, that's business.
Yeah.
Well, slavery
Don't take
was
it personal.
business.
That's business, right?
I mean, really, in 1841, what do you think Anthony Edwards or Michael Jordan would have been doing? Getting the highest bale of cotton on the highest shelf. They could jump up there and grab that hot, So we got to always put time. And sorry about if I went past your quota, but
No.
And the N word is a curse word, but in the context you got to use it. Just make people like, oh damn. So I speak this. I'm speaking today because it's 100 years since Malcolm X's birth.
Yeah.
And in his lifetime of 39 years, and also Dr. King. I don't separate the two. There's many people with voices. And the other day in a conversation on another show, they've reduced it down to people making choices of great people. I said, all this is a toolbox. Dr. King would have been a flathead screwdriver. Malcolm a Phillips head. Like, what do you got in your toolbox to protect yourself? So fast forward to what you said, Sway, all right, we're in an industry. A lot of us get into industry because we love the music and culture. But now you get into the business of the industry and you really don't know what it is, or nobody around you know what it is, even when you're making a lot of money.
Okay.
But it's money the currency that will make you totally content and satisfied with yourself.
Yeah, we're finding out Will Smith has spoken highly on that. It ain't, right? According to his journey. It was 100 years since Malcolm X will turn 100 today. It's been 50 years since the Knicks won a championship.
It's been 45 years since I did this college portrait of Malcolm.
Wow.
45 years. And just
That's
to tell
beautiful.
you that he was killed at 39. So when I did this 45 years ago, he would have only been 55.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Oh my
Right?
gosh.
Wow.
He would have been 55 when I did this, which was, like some 16 years after he was killed.
Wow. Chuck D here. I like
mentioned
how
the
you
Knicks.
skated that Knicks thing, though. 50 years since the Knicks won.
You don't even need to say nothing, man. You spoiled. You got 4 chips.
You
You got chips falling out of your pocket.
Yo, I got so many
And
chips.
almost would have did it this year in the West if Steph didn't have the injury.
You hear that, Heather?
Oh, please, Sway.
You're just saying.
I
That's
just-
Chuck D, the voice of power.
Yeah, it's nothing. Hey, man, it's nothing like a system. And look, Steve, and I'm only talking this much about sports. We in the building. You got sports shows and all that. Listen all the time. But Steve Kerr got his style off of Phil Jackson and Popovich, and Phil Jackson gets his style off of Red Holtzman. All that passing, move the ball around, ball movement and all. There ain't still been a team. There still ain't been a team in the NBA that moved the ball around like the Championship Warriors.
Nah, I agree, Chuck.
They get away from it.
They get away from it.
They be like, yo, man, we just
Well,
don't
we'll
want to
see
do
next
it.
year, Sway.
Okay,
'Cause
you
this
think
year
the
ain't-
Knicks got a chance, Chuck?
Of course they do, because they probably the most survivalist team I've ever seen. They just learning, number one, who they are. They got a lot of new players, and they just learning a killer instinct. This team never had a killer instinct. They had a survivalist instinct. Last year, they had like 4 players, and they survived, and they would scratch your eyes out, man, under Tibbs' system. This year, like the last game, if they do get a killer instinct, yeah, they could be up. They could be up there. I don't make no predictions, but I'm a Knicks fan since 1967, and that's older than old.
Chuck D is here, man. Chuck D presents Enemy Radio Armageddon.
I mean, they played Noah's Ark,
Yeah,
didn't they?
they played a long time. Chuck, tell me about
is
this
crazy.
project, man. What was your objective for this project? I know it's taken a couple of years to put it together.
Yeah, CDOC is highlighting CDOC, and I have a label called Spit Slam, and I have a radio network that we formed and put together just like Sirius that does all hip-hop all the time called Rap Station. You go to rstvapp.com. I've created 2 apps. One is Bring the Noise app, which works like TikTok for 35 and over. And it's done very well. Now we need, I'm going to go over to your area and see if I could get some, money support from Silicon Valley.
Okay.
As soon as they take care of Oakland first.
Yes, they got, man, Barbara Lee in there. Salute to Barbara Lee. Come
Yes,
on, we
yes,
rooting for
sir.
you, Barbara Lee.
And Rap Station is part of that. And out of this activity that we've had, and I did a weekly radio show for 16 years in a row, it's like make something that compiles these efforts, these great artists like Miranda Wrights and Daddy-O, Schoolie D on it. And it's just putting it together in the radio. It's like a radio station dipped in acid, but also it is C-Doc's prowess. Like I said, he's like Brian Eno. Like that's a great comparison for him. And it's just like kind of like getting to a style or reinventing a style that we wasn't able to do a long time, since the early 90s, maybe the late 80s with Bomb Squad, because you had the area samples coming in.
Yeah.
So you couldn't make beat changes and gear switches. People got conventional. It's like I could take one sample and ride that and pay that.
Yeah.
Bomb Squad is known for putting 80 songs into one song. You know what I'm saying? And we created but you know what? Let me tell you this. When we didn't create beat switching and flipping and all that. It was just taken from what they did in this city and DJing in the 70s. Like if you rhyming on the mic like Melly Mel or Curtis Blow, there could be like 4 joints underneath you. And if you the MC, you got to ride the pony. You know what I'm saying? So they could put I Can't Stop under it, then Catch a Groove, then Good Times. And if the MC
Funky
gets
drummer.
thrown, and all while you rhyming. So as soon as a beat per minute come in, if you thrown off the pony. You're supposed to ride the transition.
Yeah.
That's a lost art. We did that just kind of in records.
Okay.
And so you might hear like 4 different, forms of music coming across, but the music is changing underneath you. Nobody did that after we did that because you couldn't clear that.
And it's too many samples.
We got attacked by the lawyers. So we changed up a lot of different ways. The Bomb Squad morphed into different things, and I'm like saying, in 2024, 2025, the secret that C-Doc had come up with was actually not just reminiscent, but studied, where there's beat flips and changes again.
Yeah.
And the lawyers can't say anything about
They
it.
can't say nothing. All right, Chuck D is here. The first song we played after Can't Trust It was Super Bag. That's featured on the brand new album, man. You got a lot of people online. But in that song, you rob me of sanity, vanity, and calamity, ushered by possible crimes on humanity. Russia, UK, US say they a family. Stole that silverback out of me. Why you be crowding me? Judge yelling loud at me. I'm too old not to be proud of me. Ooh, that was a bar right there.
I don't know. I was done so long ago. I got rap Alzheimer's, man.
Not rap.
No.
You know what?
You don't, Chuck.
That's why. Look. I never was good at freestyling because I'm a performer of rap and an MC, but I can't. Man, I
wrote it, man.
I never had writer's block ever.
Okay.
I could write volumes of everything like art. I can't remember the next sentence, man. I never had that ability.
When you hear me say your lyrics back, what come to mind?
Damn. I wrote that. So not only you write it, look, God can't give you everything.
Yeah.
Facts.
I watch people freestyle, like Ice-T and Kane, they can remember songs from like 80 years ago. I can't remember last week or I know I wrote it. In order for me to perform it, I got to practice it. I got to go to rehearsal. And number one, they'll tell you back in the day, my attributes, I was the first person to, like, it wasn't a bidding war, but I turned down, it's sort of like full circle. I turned down Def Jam for 2 years.
You turned down Def Jam.
I was the first one, not the first, Beastie Boys, LL Cool J, Original Concept, and then Rick wanted me. Because what we were doing on radio, and I used to make promos for the radio station WBAU out on the island. So Rick was like, y'all got to get Chuck. Because he thought I would be like a Melly Mel piece inside. I'm not making no solo records. I'm at a radio station. I ain't making no records. I got to categorize 8 books of, 8 rooms of records. So we already had our plans of what we wanted to be radio jocks, man. But Rick hired Bill Stephanie and he told Bill, you got this job here as president, first black president of a record label and Def Jam. He said, you got this job here, but your job also is to get Chuck.
You get Chuck D.
Or I'm firing you.
Wow.
So they would ask me, Rick would call my crib, and I'd be like, telling my mom, like, nah, tell him I ain't here. So I ducked it for 2 years. I didn't want to make records. I wanted to be what if we had a show to get on BLS or Kiss at the time, we would have or changed the whole format of the station. We'd have been KMEL.
Before KMEL became KMEL.
And it would have been 83, 84.
Yeah.
But in this city, they had so much of a blockade, and they couldn't stop rap and hip hop, but they fought as hell to keep it from leaking in.
Yeah.
Red Alert and Chuck had the weekends. You
Chuck
know,
Chill
you
Out.
remember,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
They wouldn't let them talk.
No, it was just music.
Yep. Magic had WBLS.
Mr. Magic, yep.
3 hours.
Yep.
And that was it. And then other stations was like, yeah, we'll touch rap, but we ain't messing
This
with
was
it.
in the 80s.
This was in the
Yeah.
80s, 83,
Yeah.
84.
So not so long ago, rap was hard to get played, and then personalities couldn't even talk.
Right. In this city.
In New York City.
The city, and when I mean the city, you're talking Jersey, Connecticut,
New York, New
Long
Jersey,
Island,
Connecticut,
and the
yeah.
metropolitan
The
area.
tri-state area.
Million MCs been here. This is why whenever I go out there, my respect in New York. Other day I did a radio show. I brought Curtis Blow with me.
Yeah.
Because we're part of the Hip Hop Alliance. You can go to hiphopalliance.org, and that's the hip hop, that's first union. So when people talk about, oh man, it needs to be a hip hop union and all that, Curtis Blow, KRS One is the chairman. MC Light is with it. Sparky D. Chubb Rock now. So it's a union that's tied into SAG-AFTRA. So it's a real thing.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, you need some health benefits? Well, you're not in Hollywood, because every time y'all mess with Hollywood, they take care of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
The Hip Hop Alliance seriously is a serious union that members need to also go and check out and be a part of. But anyway, long story short, my respect in this city has had 1 trillion MCs, y'all. So every time I have to do something, I have to make, understand that I've been hearing MCs in this city since 1975.
Mm-hmm.
And here's another thing I want to leave y'all with. When I say things like, I've been your age, you never been mine, we have to say the currency of our age is years.
Yes.
That's the ultimate gift. This is why when Will finds like, all right, I peaked. You peaked as far as a career, maybe as far, and you think of fame, which is a fake construct.
Yes.
For another 4-letter word.
Mm-hmm.
Fake, fade, and then FUCK. They're all the same.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you believe that fame does not fade and is fake, then you know what I'm saying?
You're fucked.
Right,
Fucked,
exactly.
okay.
So
you already said fuck, Chuck. Why
Yeah,
you
right.
added
Well,
yourself?
right. If you believe, so those are all 4-letter constructs that go with fame.
Uh-huh.
So it's a construct. So whatever comes up out of fame, if you think that's going to be nutritious, you got to keep it to yourself, because it only is what it is. The currency that we want to look at is the currency of revolutions around the sun.
Yeah.
And also not take that for granted, because we say, like, a lot of times we say things from another time that might apply, and our melanin is great, and we say, oh, yeah, black don't crack. Yeah, but it can die. When we don't take care of the 5 fingers of black death is hypertension, heart attack, cancer, stress, diabetes.
Diabetes, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Punches us more than ever. So the point I was saying, right, is that when I say I was your age,
You wasn't mine.
you wasn't mine, right? Is a clear line to say is that, that's our currency. And aging is something that you attack, that you should be able to enjoy the journey and try to live well. And that these things will come at you, and especially after 40 is capsizing people.
Yeah.
So I would say, like, a lot of times in hip hop, we have these separations, but I be telling heads all the time, it's like, bro, I was there in 75, and I'm right here now. You don't think I hear what you got right now to judge what you got right now?
Yeah.
So they can't say, yo, old head, you don't know what I'm doing. I'm looking right at you, and I'm listening to what you're doing. Now, what you have to do is compete against your peers to see whether that's bullshit or not.
Yeah.
You got to compete against your own peers. You got to have your own dunk contests against your own peers and see if you can win that out. Promoters know that. You know why promoters know that? And Heather, you know this, right? promoters, you don't have to pick you could pick your best whatever. A promoter gonna tell you what the best is. They're gonna pick the first act, and they're gonna pick the one that's gonna close the building.
Yep.
And the one that closed the building is the motherfucker.
That's
star.
the marquee.
That's the one.
Yep.
Chuck D.
If we play, LL, Nas and all, it's gonna be one act that closes the building.
Yep.
And the one that closes the building is the one that hold the building. That's how they do in rock.
Yeah. Chuck D is here, man, getting this game. Get this game. It's for free today. Coach Jackson, you want to say something to the
What up,
icon?
Coach?
What up, Coach? He and ATL. What up, Coach?
Coach.
Hey guys, I'm a first-time caller.
Wait, hold up. We got something for you. Hold up, man. Welcome to the meeting.
I just gotta tell you, Chuck probably doesn't remember me, but we grew up in the same circle. I'm from Hempstead.
Of course.
You know me by Chauncey.
Oh yeah, what's up, man?
Jackson.
Chauncey Jackson, right?
Yes, sir.
Basketball
yes, sir.
player.
Yeah.
Damn. Chuck know a basketball player.
Basketball star from Long Island, Chauncey Jackson.
What's his story, Chuck? Chuck know every basketball player that came from the street.
Yeah, Long Island was nasty. Look, we grew up in the same town as Dr. J.
That's right.
And, Dr. J went to Roosevelt High, man. So right there, and from Hempstead and Roosevelt, so right there, when people talk about whoever, Jordan to LeBron, we had Doc. Doc was,
That's right.
Yeah, Dr. J.
Dr. J, period.
Yo, Chauncey, what was Chuck like when y'all was growing up?
But let me tell you, I remember. See, Chuck probably don't remember this, but when I was hanging out at Lincoln Park playing ball and everything, he was up the street, right down the street from the youth center that was named after my brother,
yes,
Percy Jackson. And he was in the studio.
510.
Up on
510 South Dr. Gant, Dr. Gant's building.
There you go. And he was doing his thing, and I remember seeing him at the youth center, at Roosevelt Youth Center, at Centennial Park. It's just love, and I love that you're doing what you're doing. It does my heart well to see you doing well and still keeping a pulse to what's going on in the community. Our guy Doug Mills passed last year. Doug. Yeah.
That's our guy.
Well, me and his brother best friends. Steve.
I know. That's yeah. Steve used to be president of the Knicks. Steve Mills.
Okay, Steve Mills.
Yeah, he another Roosevelt dude, and him and Doug and and Chauncey played ball out with Steve, and he was a big superstar. Looked up to you, Chauncey.
Hey, Chauncey, check this out, man. Chuck got a new project. Tell him the name of it, Chuck.
It's called Radio Armageddon. It's on Def Jam. I'm coming to be like a consigliere to the Godfather Tunji over there at Def Jam, and we got big up. Shout out to EP in the house.
EP,
got to give EP love. I know y'all see EP a lot.
Yeah.
EP get love, man. That's
man.
EP. Coach Jackson, thank you for your call. You're a super citizen, man.
That's 3 in the morning.
Chuck
God bless.
D, you always got a platform. As long as we got a platform, you got a platform, brother. I love having these conversations with you, man. I enjoy it tremendously. I want folks to check out the project.
Radio Armageddon on Def Jam, and how great are y'all? How great are y'all? Look. Consistency is another thing that we don't salute enough.
Yeah.
And the fact that y'all been so consistent, kind, great, gracious.
Thank you.
We should be grateful when we even get a chance to talk, and I try to tell a lot of the young artists, and that's another reason why I'm over there too, to give that little bit of advice is that, whatever you're doing, you want to do that for a long time.
Yeah.
Because you take care of it. And also the most important thing I want to say before I leave, service people. That's what I meant by administration.
Yeah.
Service people are or everything in this industry. Like EP has taken us around, and the fact is that often I think that we can also open the industry up by even interviewing people like that.
Yeah.
Because people want to know, how can I get in the business? And they want to hear from people who've worked in the business, but they don't know the occupation is there.
Yeah.
So
we was kind of having that conversation today. Chuck D, thank you for your words, man. I
thank
appreciate
y'all
it, man.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
we
y'all.
out here, Chuck.
Yeah,
We still here, Chuck.
And I'll catch y'all on either coast.
Catch us on
You
the
know,
LA
I'm
next time,
that?
Chuck.
I'll go back
We
and forth every
bi-coastal,
12
Chuck.
days.
Yeah, man. We do it everywhere, man. Look at us, Chuck. Look at her. Look how happy she looks.
I know, right?
I'm always happy.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like this is the nutrition that people want to be able to be part of. It's infectious, and they can't explain because they ain't got nothing. So how much you getting over there? You getting that paper over there? No, it ain't got nothing to do with that. It got something with that you cannot get this. When you are in tune into yourself,
Walking in purpose.
With the path of your art and
That's
culture
right,
too,
on
and you can do
purpose.
that too. Most of the world are consumers, and very few are producers.
Yeah.
And y'all happen to be curators and caretakers and producers of culture and creativity. That's a movement.
There it is. Chuck D said it.
Sway in the morning. That's a drop.
Shade 4-5.
Yep.
We just
That's a
finished
drop.
it, man. Give it up for Chuck D, man. Thank you, brother, for coming through.